following material may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, that's right. Is it smart of them to let me broadcast on 50,000 watts? Well, somebody's got to do it. Of course it's smart. Why not? That wasn't the right thing I wanted to play either. Maybe it's not so smart. Ah, well, we'll roll the dice. You're only as good as your last show. Big voice man. Who am I and who are we?
The Rick Gilmour Show on News Radio WTAM 1100.
That's right. Broadcasting live from the cultural void of Independence, Ohio. A wide and varied program this evening. This is, of course, AM Talk Radio's largest growing Sunday evening show. What does that mean? They say that on TV. Channel blah, blah, blah is the largest growing morning show. Does that mean they keep hiring people? Or does that mean it's more popular? I don't know. I think it's one of those vague, cryptic things, don't you? People hear that, and they have no idea. Well, I have an idea. You like this program? Tell a friend. How about that? That's the best I can ask from you. Some follow-up. Phone number here, 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code. The toll-free, 888-723-WTAM. Open phones for the most part. I have a few things to get into. I'm not going to lead you around by the nose this evening. We will, of course, as your primary one weather station, keep you apprised of any storms. I'm looking up on triple Doppler radar from Channel 3. And there's some green moving into the area. We had some wild weather earlier today, didn't we? I had some thunder and lightning near my home that sounded like it was hitting right next door. Frightened the dog. I'm not too frightened of that kind of thing. Although I've heard some stories about lightning. I talked to a guy one night. I'd never met him before, and he apparently, for a living, flies people to get into the Mile High Club. If you do not know what the Mile High Club is, call after 10 p.m. and I'll tell you. But he'd take people, couples, I should say, up into the stratosphere or wherever he'd go, and then these couples would couple, and I guess I just told you. Anyway, he says he was in Vietnam, and he got through that, but he came back, and in 1978, he was standing in a steel building, and it got hit by lightning, and the lightning went through him. That was in 78, and then in 88, and this was sometime in the 90s, he told me this, he said in 88, he was loading things into his airplane and had the cargo door open and reached up to close it, and the plane got hit by lightning. And he says it went in my hand and blew a hole out of my leg where it came out of my calf, where it burned a hole through my leg where it went out and went into the ground. I said, okay, so 78, 88, I says, I want to be nowhere near you in 1998. Sounds like a bad idea. I haven't spoken with the man since then, so I have no idea. Perhaps he perished in 98, the third time's the charm. Didn't much care for that. But my father told me a story once about a guy that they worked with, and the man was a grown man who was afraid of lightning. And so they would poke fun of him. Oh, here's a grown guy that is afraid of lightning, and so finally he broke down in tears and said that when he was a child, his father was standing with his hand in a doorway of a barn, a steel barn, and lightning hit the barn. And his father collapsed, and when they went out there to look at him, he said he was cooked like a hot dog. And they said, oh, well, then maybe we won't make fun of this guy anymore, because if ever there was a legitimate reason to be... So, keep an eye on the weather. Keep an ear right here. I'll keep you up to date if we have any warnings coming through the area, that kind of thing. It's just hot out there right now, 82 degrees. I wanted to do a little update as well on the Smokers' Rights Rally. Now, I deemed it a success. Oh, and I'd like to hear from you if you were at the Glenn Beck Real American 4th of July yesterday. I'd like to hear from you. I was there. I did not get there until a little later in the afternoon and then stayed until, later in the proceedings and all that sort of thing. So I saw Glenn speak in the evening, but I did not get to hear nor see him. I was not there. So if you were there, 578-1100, call and let me know what it was like there in the morning when he was doing his program. All I could tell you was I'll bet you it was hot. It was hot, and I thought it was going to rain. And they kept talking about rain in the evening there, and then program director Ray Davis kept calling on his cell phone. Hey, Nate, what's the weather? What's the weather going to be like? What? It's clear. Okay, all right, gotta go, all right, gotta go, all right. Click. I tried some years ago to teach Ray how to say goodbye. in a phone conversation and said, okay, I gotta go. All right, gotta go. All right. I said, Ray, just say goodbye. And then for like a month after that, every conversation we'd have, he'd go, goodbye, Rick. And then it went back to business as usual. Anyway, I thought the smokers' rights rally, considering we did it right quick there, went from one Sunday right to the next Sunday, was a success. All the TV stations in town showed up, and only one of them, I guess, didn't want to wait around, and they left. So shame on them, because everybody else led with it and had it on at night and in the morning and everything else. And you know what? If need be down the road here, because the smoking issue is not dead yet, well, then maybe we'll have another one, an even bigger one. And I talked to the owner of the establishment we had it in before, and he said, hey, you want to have another one? That's fine by me. I don't know. I don't know how many times you want to hammer something like that, but it is an issue. And I do want to read for you. I got some calls here, but I do want to read for you. If you're on the line, be patient. I don't even know if I'm going to read the entire article. Buddy of mine comes up to me at the VFW, and he says, are you aware that you were in the Westlife or the Sun or something? And I said, no. He said, well, I'll try and find it for you. Garbage day's tomorrow, and I'll see, make sure I don't throw it out. And so I guess his wife had it in the bedroom and had it already taken out. It was in the Westlife. And I'm going to read some of this to you, and I guess I'll save my comment for afterwards. Well, no, I'm going to mention this ahead of time. I want you to listen to what this gentleman writes and ask yourself two questions, and then I'll do a follow-up. Do you think he was there, and do you think he understood what the entire program and why I wanted to have the smokers' rights rally in the first place? Do you think he understood the concept of what it was about? And how many times did I even say at the rally, smoking's terrible. It's a nasty, dirty, filthy habit, but it's a right. It should be a right, and if a bar owner or restaurant owner wants to say, sorry, no smoking in my bar, or no smoking in my restaurant, or maybe you have to go out on the patio, or whatever, that should be their ability. That should be their privilege, and you should have the ability, if you're paying for sports venues in this town, to have a cigarette. Especially if you're not bothering. I don't know how secondhand smoke could bother anyone at a Browns game. I mean, unless you're hiding in the men's room and puffing away, you're outside. I don't know why they could not have a smoking section in the bleachers or in the seats at an Indians game. Because if you had a smoking section, think about it, you're outside. So it's just going to blow away. And so if somebody's sitting next to you in the club seats and they're ordering a hot dog, well, maybe the smoking section could have been made with some seats separating it with an aisle around. But no, see, that was my point, was that once any right is taken away, they are not going to give it back. Seldom do they give any rights of any type back, do they? Mystified by Smokers' Rights Rally by Josh Cable in the West Shore Wanderings. I thought it was odd that I even made the Westlife, because I don't live there anymore. I live in Cleveland, but that's okay. I mean, they got the name spelled right. They must have got a press release. Bear in mind, ask yourself the two questions. Do you think the gentleman was there, and do you think he understood the concept? Smokers, stand up for your rights. Prodded by local radio personality and Fairview Park native Rick Gilmour, the smoking community recently gathered for a rally to protest anti-smoking legislation that's been cropping up in the Cleveland area. Smokers unite. These days, organizing rallies seems to be de rigueur for talk show radio personalities. Glenn Beck, who in his infinite wisdom as a radio talk show host has picked Bay Village as the quintessential American city for his real American 4th of July celebration, has a rally every 5 minutes. But a rally for smokers' rights, it seems a bit silly. Of course, I may be a bit biased. Last year, my family watched my uncle, a devoted smoker and one of the most likable people you'll ever meet, waste away from lung cancer. I guess you could call his funeral the ultimate smokers' rights rally. But what do I know? No one's ever proven that smoking is hazardous to anyone's health. Heck, with all these darned medical studies coming out all the time, them their doctors may actually tell us it's good for us one of these days. I'm a bit of an AM radio nut, and I've always enjoyed Gilmour's show. But his rally for smokers' rights consisted of the same tired rationalizations used by smokers everywhere. Rationalization number 1, I deserve to smoke. I work hard, I deserve all that tar and smoke in my lungs. I'm a slave to my job. Why not be a slave to nicotine? Well, I got to jump. I never said that, did I? At least the nicotine makes me insert rationalization here. A, feel good. B, relax. C, keep my appetite in check. Or D, be attractive to the opposite sex. Rationalization number 2, I would hate to give up all my new friends. Ah, yes, the smoking community. No, I never said that either, did I? Maybe you were there. Maybe you heard the program. Maybe you heard the program that led up to it. Back to the article. Yes, there actually is a smoking community. Smokers, after all, stick together. They really do. I see them every day at the office, standing outside every 20 minutes to get some air, complaining about work, talk about a boon to workplace productivity, and, well, complaining about work. It was the same way at every other job I've ever had. It was the same way when I smoked. It must be in the smoking community's character. You must gather with all the other smokers in your building at regular intervals to complain about work and, quote-unquote, solve the world's problems. Now, I'm beginning to think that this guy's a bit of an idiot. Now, the only reason that people at work are gathering together is because you're not allowed to sit at your desk and smoke. Dummy. Believe me, this is something worth fighting for. Rationalization number 3, just breathing the air can give you cancer. Variations on this tired theme include the ever-popular, we're all going to die anyway, and the tried and true, heck, the chances of walking outside and getting run over by a car are just as high. I'm not saying that smoking should be banned in restaurants or bars or anywhere. I don't know what yours. Oh, okay. Secondhand smoke does not bother me that much, except when I get home from an enthusiastic evening of drinking and my clothes smell like, okay, well, now some newfound respect there, right? Okay, I'll give him that. And my clothes smell like I've been standing next to a campfire for 14 hours straight. The only time secondhand smoke really bothers me is when a smoker sitting next to me lights up and blows smoke in my face with wanton disregard for my feelings. Now, that don't happen very often, does it, Josh Cable? Because I found myself last evening sitting next to a man who smokes, a friend of mine. We were sitting at the bar, chewing the fat, and he was starting to play one of those video machines next to me. He moved over and was playing one of those video game things, Mega Touch or whatever, you know. So I fire up a smoke and not thinking, because no one was sitting there before he just moved from one side of me over to the other. I just instinctively blew my smoke that direction. And I was like, oh, sorry, dude, you know, waved my hand back and forth. And he said, don't worry about it. Seldom do people, I think, blow smoke wantonly into your face, but I digress. Back to the article. That's rarely a problem. Usually they're pretty cool about it. Okay, well, so we agree on that. What bothers me, though, is that people would take the time to rally for their rights as smokers. It just seems like there are so many more important things to rally for. Well, this is the part where I thought Josh didn't get the entire program. Do I need to enumerate them? Yes, you do. It says there, even if there were not more important things to rally for, and I've got stuck in the fold in the page. Let me straighten it out here for him. I think I'd feel a bit silly if someday I were dying of lung cancer, and I don't wish this on any smoker or non-smoker, and I'd actually taken the time to rally for smokers' rights. I'm not trying to demonize smokers. It's just a habit. I have friends that are smokers, and quite frankly, if I knew smoking were totally harmless, I'd probably do it. But it is not harmless, and to think otherwise is just another sad and tragic rationalization that keeps smokers rallying for their rights and smoking their lives away. You tell me, does it sound like the guy was at the rally? I assume that when you get a press release, it probably says where the rally is because, gee, TV found it. I get the impression that this gentleman said, Pshaw, what, me go out on a Sunday night for work? Why should I do that? Pshaw, I'll just listen to it on the radio and hear what I want to hear and write an article because obviously, see, taking the popular opinion is always the easy way out. Saying that you were all for the war without questioning our government was the easy way out. Saying that smoking's bad, of course smoking's bad. Even I'm a smoker and I said smoking's bad. Really. Let's come to order. Let's try to get on the same page. Order! 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 Harumph. I said it was one more right. It ties in with alcohol, tobacco, firearms. They're going to tell you how little you can drink. They're going to tell you where you cannot smoke. They're going to tell you what gun you cannot carry. It's just a frittering away of our rights. It's about governmental control. Do you understand that? It's about controlling the people. More and more and more. Under Patriot Acts 1 and 2 and the Homestead Security Act, they can trample all over the Constitution if they want to. Have they? Well, not unless you've got olive skin and you're listening to me from your cell, where you can be held forever until they say the war on terror is over. You know, the war on terror actually started under the Reagan administration. So had the Patriot Acts 1 and 2 and the Homestead Security Act been in place in, say, 1982, you could, theoretically, 21 years later, still be sitting in the can uncharged. Do you really think that the war on terror is ever going to be over? I can tell you it's not. And ask anyone who has loved ones over there in Iraq that are getting shot at every day whether that war was a good idea. You've got people coming out. You've got General Wesley Clark coming out, 4-star general, Allied Supreme Commander of NATO for several years, and now possible presidential candidate, who was against that war. Where was the imminent danger? Where was the direct threat? I was reading Noam Chomsky today. If you don't know, Noam is an intellectual type that graduated from MIT and has been teaching there since 1955. Believe he teaches mathematics. Smart feller. And he comes out and says, I'm not a peacenik by any stretch. Sometimes wars need to be fought. But legally, to fight that war in Iraq legally, we should have gone to speak to the UN, and then there's Charter 51 and different articles you can go to that state specifically what it takes to have a war in proper fashion. And you have to have an imminent danger, and actually you have to be being fired upon on a regular basis. You have to be being bombed or shot at on a regular basis to even consider. See, but the U.S. did not do that in Nicaragua. No, they just went in Nicaragua and did whatever they wanted to do. Because, and it goes with all powerful nations, and we're the most powerful for the past 50 years. In Nicaragua, tried to do it the right way. Okay, we go to the UN, and it's like calling the cops on your noisy neighbor. And they're supposed to come and break it up. Hey, U.S., hey, you. Hey, U.S., you stand over there. Nicaragua, get over here. Now, you two are fighting. One of you is going to go to jail here. And we have to come back again and tell you to turn down those bombs. Somebody's getting a ticket. But the U.S. didn't do it that way. The U.S. did not see fit to need to do it that way. The U.S. decided that they were just going to walk around and plot all over. And you know what? Luxembourg would do the same thing. But they don't have the power to do the same thing. The U.S. does. The U.S. does stomp around. And it brings up something called, and I'll teach you something in class, here's something, a new term for you to think about while you go through your week and through the evening here and whatever else you do. Moral truisms. Moral truisms. We as the United States, see, all around the world, people looked at 9/11 and said, well, that's another act of terrorism. Not national terrorism, just international terrorism, just privately sponsored terrorism, most likely. If it was Al-Qaeda, it was privately sponsored terrorism. But you know what? We go around the world and do the same thing. Like Nicaragua, and what was the one in Sudan? Was that the one where we bombed the pharmaceutical factory that down the road killed tens of thousands of people? But with the moral truism, see, you've got to consider that, see, we want it one way, how we're treated. We want to be treated one way. Hey, they can't fly planes in the buildings. But see, we go around the world for a long time before that doing things that other people go, hey, that's clearly illegal and against the UN, and killed tens of thousands of people. I know it sounds like a tangent, but it all does tie together. Because if you don't stand up for the little things, look at the big things. They'll just stomp all over all our rights. So, Josh Cable, nice of you to give me some kind kudos, I guess. sideways, sort of, in the article, in the Westlife. But it's about more than just lighting up a cigarette. And I thought I made that abundantly clear over and over and over. Edmund, you were running the board for that show. Did I not say it? Both those shows, weren't you? And didn't I say it was about more than just smokers? Well, I'll tell you what, you're on the line, be patient. I'll take your phone calls after these important words, and I got a great quote for you from Don Rumsfeld, this right off on MSNBC, so I can back it up. You'll love this. It's called a tease. Plus, I got some stuff to give away tonight. Keep it right here. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend. You'll hear important words, coverage of what in the world's happening, and right back at it here on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100. Did we say we were giving something away, or is Channel 5 having a contest again? Well, we said we're giving something away? Okay. I guess I was daydreaming looking out the window at the fireworks.
Rick Gilmour.
I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
Whose fireworks are they, anyway? I was looking, if you look out the building towards, I guess over towards 77 North, I was guessing about maybe like Brooklyn Heights area or something. Would that be Garfield's fire? I don't think it's Garfield's fireworks. I'm looking in the paper here in the Metro section, and it said Bedford Heights have fireworks at dusk. I don't think that's Bedford Heights over there, is it? That doesn't look like the right area for that. Garfield Heights does not say fireworks, and Rocky River does not say fireworks. So I don't know. If you're out there watching the fireworks, wherever it is, if you can grab a line, jump on in 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code. Let me know what's going on out there. I also wanted to talk to somebody who might have been at the Glenn Beck Real American 4th of July rally, asking, "Ye shall receive." John, you're on the air.
How you doing there, Rick?
All right.
First-time caller to your show.
Welcome.
Thank you. I went there with my family. It was hot. It was kind of muggy, but you know what? I had a good time. I attended, the Glenn Beck and WTAM Rally for America in the middle of, when it was ice cold. And I had a good time there. I think what it was just, I like the guy. I like his station. And I like basically that you guys were promoting this event because it was just basically going there as a family thing. And that's all I saw it as. It doesn't matter. I read the articles, by people writing to the editor about, this isn't America. It's a bunch of, it's a predominantly white neighborhood and all that kind of stuff, $250,000 homes. All that I felt there was I went there to have a good time with my family. And to me, that's what it was all about, celebrating America. And I'm a veteran of the Gulf War. And to me, it was just about celebrating America. It was about being with your family.
Yeah, I did not see that article, but whoever wrote it is mistaken because there are a lot of homes in Bay Village. There's that whole East Bay, West Bay thing.
Right.
And the people who live in Bay Village say, I live in Bay Village, and the people who have the $250,000 and up homes say, oh, I live in West Bay. Well, there's a lot of people that live on Knickerbocker or Douglas or streets over in I guess, East Bay, that their house is $100,000, just like anybody else's house.
I mean, I read, it was Regina Brett's article. I read Regina Brett's article. I read some guy who said he was the Democratic treasurer for Bay Village. And to me, I'm just kind of getting sick and tired. To me, what it was, to me, it was just about going there with your family and having a good time. And, the thing about it is that I'm not even a resident of Bay Village. I came there from my home on the east side to go there just to prove a point.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I came there I live in the inner city, and I came there I don't live in Bay Village, and I went. And I had a good time. In fact, I'll have to ask Edmund, hey, Ed, you got change for a $5? I tried to go to the snack box down there, and all I had was a $5 bill. I'm starving, and all I had to eat today was, I took some sandwiches left over for Glenn, because I guess he couldn't eat 4 6-foot subs. So I grabbed a tray of cookies and took it to the VFW when I left, and I grabbed some sandwiches and took them to the VFW, and I took one home, and I had that today. And so. Yeah,
and to me what it is that, the thing about it is, Rick, I just went there. I had a great time, and I actually, I just was wondering how the mayor was responding to those negative articles. The mayor didn't call me, but her assistant did. She goes, you know what? It's their constitutional right to say what they want to say. It's like your show. If you disagree with something, it's your show. You have a right to say it. And the thing about it is, that's what America's all about. That's what July 4th is all about, and it's about celebrating America. And there's men and women right now that are defending our right to say it. There's that serve that defended our right to say it. So if they can say it, go ahead and say it. It's like your, smokers' rights rally. It's your right to say what you want to say. And to me, maybe it's idealistic, and and God, you know what? I'm not apologizing for the way I feel, but it's just the way it is. That's what this country is all about.
Hey,
Great
John.
show, Rick.
John, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
You like old cars?
Love old cars.
Do you? Because I was floating the idea, I don't know if you heard last week, and I spoke a little with management when we've not written anything in stone yet. I wanted to have a classic American car and American bike show here at the radio station parking lot, because it holds just the front lot. I think we can get 1,000 cars in there, and charge people $15, $10, whatever the going rate would, and have all the money go to help our troops.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be there.
And in fact, I'd like to have a bikini car wash out there too, in case somebody just brings their regular car in and they don't have a show car or something. And it wouldn't have to be, it's not like a car show. It's more like a cruise-in kind of thing, because I wouldn't care if you brought your old car that's halfway fixed and in primer. You know what I mean? It's not going to be who's got the best car.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be just showing up to show support for the troops, because they're dying every day. And I thought if we could get 500, I have not even gotten a hold of Rolling Thunder yet. If I can get, I made one phone call that I got through to somebody, and I said, what do you think? And he goes, I got you 200 cars like that.
You know what, Rick? If you call Rolling Thunder, and if there's anybody from Rolling Thunder that's listening to your show, I'll guarantee you Rolling Thunder will be there with at least 1,000 bikes. Well, I'm exaggerating. Maybe I'm not, but I know Rolling Thunder will be there to get your back on that one.
Here's my goal. We'll see how it goes, because we've got some lead time here, and if people are interested, I'll by all means entertain phone calls. And I spoke to a few people at Cahoon Park there. Mm-hmm. At the Glenn Beck Real American 4th, and they said, well, I wanted to call up and ask you a car question, Rick, but you were talking about something else. I said, by all means, I'm talking anything that's not too heavy and serious. You want to change gears on me and ask a car question, that's fine. And we ended up talking for so long that he never did get a chance to ask me his car question. But I says, you know what I want? I have a goal. I want 500 cars, and I want 500 bikes, and I want to raise at least 10 grand. And I don't know about the USO, because they've been around a long time and they're fairly funded by other folks, but I was thinking that I'm going to get a hold of a recruiter, and there's got to be a way to make sure that this money goes to help the troops and the families of troops that are here in Cleveland.
Yeah, well, you know what, Rick? Rolling Thunder will make sure that money gets to the right people. Or any local veterans, Vietnam Veterans of America, American Legion, or VFW. Check with them, and I'll guarantee those guys have got your back. They will. I can guarantee it.
And I could hope on you showing up.
Hey, I'll be there. As a matter of fact, I'll bring a baseball for you to autograph for me.
Okay, sounds great.
Take care, Rick. God bless you.
All right, you too. Yeah, I'm tentatively shooting for a Saturday in August, maybe the 16th. Don't write anything down yet. Don't write anything down. Yes, Edmund, you look... Cuyahoga Falls, all right. Yeah, I was trying to figure out where exactly those fireworks were from. Cuyahoga Falls, huh? I was thinking it looked more like Cuyahoga Heights. Well, no, I didn't see that in the newspaper now, did I? It said Cuyahoga County. It said Bedford, Bedford Heights, Garfield Heights, and Rocky River. Oh, here, Summit County, Cuyahoga Falls. Would that be that direct? That's north. I don't... See, lady, I think you think I'm looking out the other side of the building. I'm looking towards Lake Erie from down here, right? That's the way I get back on the highway to go back downtown. And it's off to the right of downtown. That's why I'm thinking I'm not sure exactly where it is, but there's got to be someplace up closer to the lake. I'm just guessing that it's not Cuyahoga Falls, but if you live in lovely Cuyahoga Falls, God bless you. But anyway, I think that the American car and bike rally could be a hit, and want to limit it to strictly American cars and American bikes. I promised you, I got a full bank of phones, but I promised you the quote from Donald Rumsfeld, speaking of how Americans have the right to say anything. This from MSNBC. You just got to hear it to believe it. To cite one example, at a press conference exactly a year ago on June 6th, 2002, so this obviously from MSNBC on June 6th, 2003, Rumsfeld was asked a very direct question. Regarding terrorism and weapons of mass destruction, you said something to the effect that the real situation is worse than the facts show. I'm wondering if you can tell us what is worse than is generally understood. Because I guess pretty much everyone in the whole world, except for the U.S. and Britain, were kind of like wondering ahead of time, too, like, where are these weapons of mass destruction? Here's his response. He replied that lots of intelligence only comes to light years after the fact which proves that you can't know everything. Here are the quotes from Don Rumsfeld. There are no knowns. There are some things we know that we know. There are known unknowns. That is to say that there are things that we know we don't know. That we know we don't know. But there are also unknown unknowns. There are things we do not know that we don't know. Let me get it to you one more time. What about these weapons of mass destruction? Rumsfeld says, there are no knowns. There are things we know that we know. There are known unknowns. That is to say, there are things that we now know we don't know. But there are also unknown unknowns. There are things that we do not know we don't know. Now, can you make head and tail out of that? Mike, you're on the air. Hello? You're on the air. Are you still there, Tiger? Put you on hold and try back. Sounds like you're in a bad cell. Stan, talk to me.
Hi, how you doing?
Just great.
Yeah, there's a couple things. Rocky River had their fireworks last night, by the way. I think your information's a little off there. The other thing is, you were talking about smoking at the Brown Stadium.
Damn plain dealer.
They do have sections where you can go and smoke. You just can't smoke in your seat for obvious reasons.
And no, it does not say they're having fireworks at Rocky River. It just said they were having their celebration ends today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, and so I know that. You know, why can't you smoke in your seat?
Because for one, safety reasons. The Brown Stadium usually is sold out. It is packed. You could catch people's coats on fire by chance if an ash happens to fall off. Plus, they don't want the seats damaged. People used to, at the old stadium, used to put cigarette burn marks in the seats, and the seats that we have now are all plastic, so it is very easy to damage seats. Plus, I work at the stadium, and we get constantly people that are non-smokers complaining that they are sitting next to somebody that smokes. Now, you can go, like it says, you can go on any level of that stadium. There is a place for you to smoke. And you will never miss one play because they have thousands of TVs in these smoking sections. It's right in the back. You don't even have to leave your level. If you're on the 500 level, you go right in back of the concourse there. You can smoke wherever you want as long as you're in the concourse area.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily true at Jacobs Field.
Well, I didn't say Jacobs Field.
I know. I spend more time at Jacobs Field. I spend more time at Jacobs Field than I do at Brown Stadium.
Okay, but you brought up Brown Stadium.
I mean, what's the hell the difference in Jacobs Field where you got to stand over that yellow line over there? Okay, so somebody else can stand right on the other side of the yellow line and not smoke, and you have to go stand in the corner. You were bad because you're helping pay for the joint.
Well, so is the people that drink, too. It's not just the smokers that are paying for that joint.
Yeah, but they're coming after everybody. You see my point? Did you see my point about the smokers' rights rally? It wasn't just about smoking.
Okay, plus the other thing is the reason that you aren't allowed to smoke at certain stadiums, that comes from, like, Major League Baseball has policies that they put out, and every team has to abide by them policies. It's not just Jacobs Field says you can't smoke. It's all these different stadiums that say you can't smoke this, in your seats, or you have to have a certain place to go smoke. And it's the same way with the NFL. They have certain policies that every team has to.
Well, too many rules. Too many rules. They keep charging. Well, I tell you, I won't go. Too many damned rules.
The Lord has given unto you these 10 commandments.
Sadly, in these end times, it's the other way around. As America goes slowly down the toilet, counterclockwise, I believe, in our hemisphere, there's just more rules. The government has given you these 112,289 million commandments, and I can see it coming now. And just too much. The government just takes too much.
Government do take a bite, don't you?
Yeah, you do. From the sunshine of San Diego to the moonshine of Macon County. Ain't nobody gonna be smoking no place. And I said before, hey, if that's the case, then why don't you make them illegal? Tomorrow morning on the big one, time to get you back to work, get the latest news, and you get your Channel 3 weather with Holly Strano, Sky Chief Traffic with Rick Abel, and your 2020 Sports with Jeff Phelps. He's in for Casey Coleman. Wake up informed. Don't be a dum-dum. Wake up informed with Wells and Coleman in the morning, weekdays 5 until 9 here on News Radio, WTAM 1100. Your triple Doppler forecast from forecaster Eileen McShay. Is this Irish music? It's labeled Irish music? Well, it's not the dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. I want that one guy that called that says whenever I do that and they play the little jig, that he... No, that's not it either. That he gets up and dances around in his basement. No. Okay. There it is. Faith and Bagora, we found it. Your triple Doppler forecast from TV3 forecaster Eileen McShay. Tonight, cloudy with some showers and storms possible with a low near 70. Tomorrow, cloudy, more of the same weather with a high near 90. Currently 80 degrees in Cleveland, 80 degrees. Beautiful night to be on the lake unless a storm kicks up. Keep it right here on the big one. Waves 2 feet or less. Water temperature 68 degrees. That's the numbers there. 80 degrees in Cleveland. You know why I only put 239 beans in me bean soup, don't you? Because one more would be too farty. Get it? Too farty.
Don't sass me, boy. You ain't too big for me to give you a licking.
Well, I might like it. Dale, talk to me.
Hey, what's up with the flatulent stuff, man?
I'm talking about soup.
Hey, okay, what was the deal with what you were saying here now with the explanation of what Gingrich said?
That wasn't Gingrich, you mean Rumsfeld?
Yeah, Rumsfeld, I'm sorry.
Can you make head or tail out of what he said?
I kind of sort of thought I deciphered it in my head there while you were reciting it. Okay, please.
Well, let's just walk through it together here. Talking about intelligence, he said there are no knowns.
Okay, that means you can't always know everything.
Okay, then he said there are things that we know that we know.
Yeah, well, there's things that you can prove.
All right, and then there are known unknowns.
It means that you know they have things that you don't know about.
No, not necessarily. He said there's things you can prove, and then that there are known unknowns. That means there's things you can't prove, doesn't it? There are known unknowns. That means
I don't necessarily understand that. What you mean by that?
Well, there are known unknowns. That means we know there's some things we do not know.
Correct.
Not that we know that they have weapons. That's not what he said. He said there are
the unknown that we don't know.
Right. Okay. So there's things. See, here we go. That is to say that there are things that we now know that we do not know.
Right.
But there are also unknown unknowns.
Correct, and there always will be. That's a given.
These are the things that we do not know, we do not know.
Correct.
Boy,
but
wow.
They will always exist because nobody knows everything.
Well, I'm so glad, Dale, that it somehow makes sense to you. I would think that 90% of the people that are listening to the radio are scratching their heads and saying, I'm with Rick. I don't know. What the hell does that... If it was so simple, why all the double talk and garbledy-gook and mumbo, mumbo, jumbo, mumbo, 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 jumbo, jumbo? What? I mean, why don't you just say, look, there's some stuff that we can prove and there's some stuff that we can't prove, and then there he lost me. There was more stuff that we know we can't prove, and there's stuff sorry, Don Rumsfeld, I just don't get it.
Rick, why do you despise me?
Because you talk in circles and you're in with the government. Be the 11th caller right now. 11th caller right now at 578-1111. How about this? You can win a VHS copy of Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York. That's a pretty good prize, isn't it? Yeah, pretty good movie, too. So check that out. Just be the 11th caller right now at 578-1111. And you can win a VHS cassette of The Gangs of New York, Martin Scorsese's latest and greatest. Mike, are you back now? Hello? All right. I'll go on to somebody else. Here's another Mike. Talk to me.
Hey, how you doing, Rick?
All right.
It's Mike the Repo Man.
Oh, Mike the Repo Man. How the hell are you?
Oh, I haven't talked to you in a while. I just been chilling out.
Is your truck...
No, go ahead.
Is your truck red?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, silver.
Okay, because I saw what looked like to me was a guy hooking a car that they looked like, it's one of those repo trucks where they just get up and snatch it and go. Mm-hmm. And he had someone following him closely behind in another car, and they were following each other, and the car had some kind of a special plate on it, and I thought, well, maybe, it's just the backup team to make sure nobody's following them and shooting at them.
No, I'm a lone wolf. I work alone. I always tell the other repossession companies when they have to work in pairs or three guys in a truck that they ought to be wearing skirts. But I digress. I was just calling I remember you're talking about Donald Rumsfeld and his comments. I remember there was this one older gentleman one day. He says to me, I have forgotten more than I ever learned. And that kind of goes along with exactly what Mr. Rumsfeld was saying. It's, you just can't follow it. I understand the known unknowns part, but when he went deeper into it, I think he just kind of fell off the edge there, and it couldn't be followed logically.
Yeah, I mean, this was something that I expect Yogi Berra to say, not Don Rumsfeld.
Well, Rumsfeld's been around a long time, though. You got to admit, the guy he's a very intelligent person. Whether you like his politics or not, he's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah, I'm starting to lean towards the smart guys on the other side of the aisle, like Howard Dean and General Clark.
Howard Dean, I don't know about that guy.
Well, check out draftwesleyclark.com. Just for fun, and read about Wesley Clark. He's a 4-star Vietnam veteran general that was Allied Supreme Commander in NATO. He's got a Silver Star, he's got a Bronze Star, he's got a Purple Heart, and he was against the war for the reasons that he said, where was the imminent danger? Come on, people. We want to play our game our way, but if anybody plays our game against us, heaven help them. And there was no direct correlation. I cannot even get Hawks to call to find a direct correlation between Saddam Hussein and 9/11. They know it's not there. Sure, he was funding terrorism. Yes, he was a monster. But look at the animals that are over there killing our soldiers every day. It took a monster to keep them in check.
Well, if you really want to go after the funding of the terrorism, how come we're not occupying Saudi Arabia?
That's the question I've been asking for months.
But, the whole Middle East, if they for some reason, if you believe in a God, why did God put all the oil there? I just don't get it.
They had a guy on TV saying, take the oil, take all the oil, just get out of here and leave us alone.
They would have nothing. They would still be just, riding camels across the sand. They would have nothing if it were not for the oil and our need for it. If the United States didn't exist and the need for the oil did not exist, those people would still be in the 5th century.
Yeah, I know. Mike, I got to run.
All right.
I'll talk to you later. Repo Man.
Repo Man's good all night, every night.
Amen and hallelujah. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out of the room and go have a cigarette. How about that? If you're on the phone line, be patient. I'll get to you. You might not be able to get back through. And you'll stay tuned for these important words. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend. And you'll get coverage of what in the world's happening on Cleveland's only news radio station, WTAM 1100.
The following material may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, see?
I'm not wearing any pants. Film at 11.
Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Yeah, keep that in mind.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's after 10 o'clock now. Put the kids to bed. They have to get up tomorrow and go frolic out in the fields of Fairview, or wherever you're at. Right, big voice man? Who am I and who are we?
The Rick Gilmour Show on News Radio WTAM 1100.
Yep. Broadcasting live from the cultural void of Independence, Ohio. 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code. Keeping an eye up on triple Doppler radar up there from Channel 3. Some storms, looks like some rain moving into Fremont, Sandusky, Norwalk, and the Willard area. If anything's going to pop up in Greater Cleveland, by all means, I'll be here to keep you right on top of it, right? You don't want to be on the bottom of the news. You want to be on the top of the news. You can ask anybody that. You can ask Ladybug Jane Campbell, the queen of the flying hubcap.
We are on top of it.
Yeah, well, did I give you the toll-free 888-723 WTAM? Pretty much open phones tonight. Was talking a bit about the car show I'm trying to plan. Wanted to know if you were at the Glenn Beck Real American 4th of July. I was there, but I was not there early. So I guess I missed the program from 9 to noon, and I missed. Were you there when? I want to hear about Ray Davis. Did they dunk program director Ray Davis for calling on the hotline too many times? Then probably some little kid or somebody dunked him. How many times did these people get dunked anyway? Once or twice, or is there a limited number of times you get dunked? They were going to dunk Paul Rado too, big Serbian guy. And so is Mike Trevisano. He's not Serbian, but he's a big guy. That must have been a big dunk tank. Actually, I saw the dunk tank, and it was pretty big. So I guess people can fit. Ted, you're on the air.
Yeah, one of my favorite Donald Rumsfeld quotes leading up to the war is, quote, "The absence of evidence is not the absence of evidence," unquote.
Thank you, Yogi Berra. Don Rumsfeld.
And, but you're talking about the Saudi funding. I don't know if you've been following the 9/11 investigation, but do you think there's a fix-in with this 9/11 investigation? Because Prince Sultan bin Abdul Aziz is the defense secretary of Saudi Arabia, and he's been named by the victims of the family members of 9/11 in a civil suit. And his attorney is James Baker, the former Secretary of State, and that's the same Baker who serves as the counsel for the intelligence policy to the Justice Department's Office of Intelligence Policy and Review. So we got James Baker advising the Attorney General on terrorism and national security as it relates to terrorism, and he's representing legally. His firm is representing, and he personally is representing, an individual accused of terrorism. Now, the guy who heads the 9/11 Commission, the former governor of New Jersey, Thomas Kean, sits on the board of directors of Amerada Hess Oil. And Amerada Hess is involved with Delta Oil of Saudi Arabia, which is headed by Khalid bin Mahfouz, who is also named in this suit by the victims, the family members of the victims of 9/11. So the guy investigating 9/11 is a business partner with one of the people accused of financing terrorism on 9/11. Now, don't you find that all just a little bizarre and a little bit too coincidental?
Sounds like the genie's out of the bottle. I mean, it's just confusing there. It seems like everybody's patting everybody else on the back and shaking hands and... I've said for a long time, part of the New World Order, there's going to be all sorts of funny business going on. And how are you going to fight it? The Council on Foreign Relations, it used to be some sort of a hidden agenda. Now they stand out in front of their buildings for photo ops.
Yeah, I mean, I just find this whole thing. I don't know if you've read the testimony of Mindy Kleinberg. Her husband was killed on 9/11. She asks, why weren't these jet fighters scrambled as pursuant to regulations? And it turns out that on the morning of 9/11, Dick Cheney was running a simulation of a potential terror attack on the Pentagon. So somebody had to issue an order for stand down for these jets not to be scrambled. And as part of that exercise, it seems to me logical and reasonable that Dick Cheney must have issued a stand down order as part of this exercise. Now, if you believe that it was just coincidental that the terrorists on that particular day decided to launch their attack and they just got lucky that, that the simulation was being run, I've got some swampland by you in the Florida. Hardly anybody knows that Dick Cheney was running this simulation on the very day of 9/11. Now, that's something that should be investigated more extensively. But the Bush administration seems to want to really rein in this investigation of 9/11. That leads me to believe that perhaps all of this was part of a government plan because they've been talking about extending American power throughout the world. And in the Grand Chessboard, Zbigniew Brzezinski's book, and the Project for the New American Century, they kept talking about how the American people really don't like foreign involvement, and that we would need something like a Pearl Harbor to motivate and animate the American people to support a more muscular foreign policy, and voila, we suddenly get 9/11.
Well, check this out. On the day of September 11th, 2001, after that event, 3% of Americans believed that Saddam Hussein had something to do with it. By the time we went to war with Iraq, or I don't even want to call it, by the time we invaded Iraq, a sovereign nation that was not a direct threat to us, which is clearly an unjust war, an illegal war, 50% of Americans believed that Saddam Hussein was somehow behind 9/11.
Yeah,
it's the propaganda machine, Ted.
They wrapped 9/11. They took Iraq and they successfully associated Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11, with 9/11. See, they're using 9/11 now to assault civil liberties. They're using 9/11 to justify foreign adventurism throughout the world, even when that foreign adventurism has no real direct link to 9/11. The people have been totally bamboozled by this administration that wants to basically become a predominant power in the world. They have a Napoleonic complex.
Well, like Noam Chomsky said, though, he said Luxembourg would be doing the same thing we are had they have the capability. They don't. There's a lot of countries in the world that when you're a strong power, you walk around and, as Lord Buckley said, he did stomp on the terror. Well, we're stomping on the terror because we can.
Well, it's a very dangerous thing because a lot of countries who become very powerful, that power goes to their heads and they overextend themselves and they end up getting basically crushed. And I think that the people running this country are power mad now, and they're ignoring the lessons of history, that any power that tries to dominate the world, in the end, ends up destroying itself.
Yep. Ted, I appreciate the phone call. Reminds me of something that I perhaps should discuss a little again, not to go too deep on you here. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. The Hegelian dialectic, Hegelian, Hegelian dialectic. There was a philosopher from way back, way back, that discussed the Hegelian dialectic, which is you got a big problem, you've got a reaction by the people, and you have a desired end or a solution. Heaven forbid anyone, September 12th of 2001, to have ever thought that we had to have another Pearl Harbor. It doesn't seem to be any kind of a problem for people to look back on the FDR administration and say, gee, we might have known about Pearl Harbor, but we did nothing about it. But that's a possibility, but don't question 9/11. Well, people are starting to ask some questions. See, the Hegelian dialectic, you can relate this to a lot of wars or a lot of instances where you want to make a change in power. Hitler was Chancellor of Germany in the 30s, and in 39, his own Reichstag got burned. Oh, my God, well, that was a problem. And the reaction was that the people panicked. And Hitler said, the solution is I need to be der Führer. That way nothing bad will happen to anyone in the future as long as I have ultimate power. Well, if you happen to have been a World War I war hero but were Jewish and thought you were getting on the train to go someplace special because you were a decorated veteran, God help you, and may your soul rest in peace. I mean, is it possible? Anything's possible. I'd try not to get too Star Trekky. Yes, under Patriot Acts 1 and 2 and the Homestead Security Act, yes, it's possible that they can do a lot of things. You know, it's possible that you could get a phone call. I could get a phone call at work right now from the FBI. And they could say, hey, Rick? Yes, sir. Is this Rick Gilmour? Yes, sir. This is the FBI. Yes, sir. Well, we were just at your home. Just wanted to let you know in case you find anything maybe not where you exactly put it or your dog's going nuts or something. But and we came to your home and we checked out your computer and we looked around at some of your paperwork and, looked in your sock drawer and that sort of thing. And you're okay. You're an okay feller. So how about that? I just wanted to let you know. And thanks for shopping with FBI Mart. Click. I mean, that's what's possible. Is it happening? Oh, no, not to our knowledge yet, but is it possible? Well, you want me to give away another one of these? Is that what you're... Oh, okay. I'm getting signals from the control room from Edmund. Yeah, because I got a bunch of these to give away. Be the 11th caller right now at 578-1111. That's the contest line, and the 216 area code. I want a copy of Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York. It's on VHS tape there, so if you threw away your VCR because you got a DVD, you're SOL. How's about that? Mike, talk to me.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I'd like to switch gears back to the local scene.
Sure.
And your position on smoking and in bars and restaurants and leaving it up to the owners of those establishments.
I feel that's the way it should be because I cannot see what Matt Zone's going to try to accomplish by trying to push forth a no smoking in bars and restaurants referendum other than trying to destroy the business of bars and restaurants in Cleveland in a time where our economy is sagging as it is.
But each establishment, before it can open up its doors for business, a fire marshal has to come and inspect the facility to make sure that there are smoke detectors, there need be sprinklers, fire hydrants, emergency doors. We don't let that up to the responsibility of the owners. They have to provide for certain codes, but we have a fire marshal, representative of the people, to come and make sure that that the establishment is in order.
Yeah, and so now you're going to try to somehow draw a correlation between now we need the government to protect people from smokers. Is that what you're going to say?
No, I'm saying that the government must ensure for the health of the customers and the employees that the air in the establishment, be it a restaurant, a bar, or a sports arena, is healthy to the best extent possible. And the one easy way of doing this is not to permit toxic smoke from being generated in the facilities.
So you just lay down and have another right taken away because you don't smoke. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect you.
I don't smoke, but if you go and
so you're missing the point. You're missing the point. There's plenty of restaurants that are smoke-free right now. Why should the government tell us what is a personal choice? If we want to go in and the owner wants to smoke, say the owner wants to. How many bar owners? Thank you, sir. I don't think we can go anywhere but down with that phone call. I want to hear from you if you're a bar owner. I want to hear from you if you're a restaurant owner. Do you have constant complaints? If I walk in a restaurant and I sit at the bar to eat my meal, which I often do so I can watch TV, I'm sitting at the bar and getting my food right there, and if somebody next to me lights up a big stinky cigar, well, that's what I got for sitting at the bar. I should have walked in and said, can I please sit on a patio or in the non-smoking section if that were to bother me, which it does not. But I'd like to hear from a bar owner or a restaurant owner or several or whatever. How would this affect your business in the city of Cleveland? Business is down anyway. We're the fourth largest city of smokers in the U.S., and we've got so many other things to worry about right now. Hey, is everyone back to work? Where's Matt Zone's ward? Around 65th and Detroit? Around that area? One of the more blighted areas on the west side. An area where I know a lot of people who thought they'd buy homes down there to try and make some money on them as rental property, and the only problem is that the people have to pay rent. And a lot of people that lived there for years or grew up there just couldn't wait to move away. Why don't you worry about that? How is this ban on smoking in bars and restaurants in Cleveland going to help the greater good right now? See, at some point you have to say, right now we've got a problem. Yeah, smoking's bad for you, but even your great-grandma could have told you that long before the government came along and said so. Sure, yeah, you don't smoke. No, it doesn't affect you. No, and you probably do not own a bar or a restaurant either. I don't think it's that big an issue. They've got some crazy rule. I was talking to someone from New York City, and they said something to the effect of, if they have a tobacco permit, some tobacco license, and the owner of the bar owns at least 1/3 of it, and he smokes, that they can have smoking in the bar. So what? Don't we have a lot more things to worry about than that? Listen for your Tribe Fan Fact during Extra Innings with Kevin Keene, and listen to win Indians tickets the next morning on Wells and Coleman in the morning. There's some great seats still available. Want to try and get some? Just pick up the phone and call 216-420-HITS, H-I-T-S. Your home of the Indians is right here. News Radio, WTAM 1100, your triple Doppler forecast from TV3's Eileen McShay. Tonight, cloudy out there. Some showers and thunderstorms possible. Low near 70. Tomorrow, cloudy and more of the same. High near 90. Currently 80 degrees in Cleveland. 80 degrees. I don't know. It seemed rather cut and dried to me that if you start taking away these rights, and I believe you should have a right to do whatever you want to within reason to your own body. They're not selling cigarettes to children, or they're trying not to. Lots of things are bad for you. Smoking's bad for you. Drinking's bad for you. Being a big fat guy is bad for you, too. Why don't we tax fast food or toilet paper? What'd they say? Over 60% of the U.S. is now obese? Now, I understand that smoking's bad for you, but I believe something like 20 to 25% at the most of the U.S. smoke cigarettes. But they don't seem to care less whether you're digging your grave with a knife and fork. Now, what's that cost? Now, what's the direct cost of smokers to the city of Cleveland itself? Why don't you just, tell, hey, Councilman Zone, why don't you just put forth a referendum that no one who works for the city of Cleveland will smoke on or off duty? No cops, no firefighters, no garbage men, no dog catchers, no meter maids, no. Why don't you see how that goes over? And then I have to wonder whether it's smoke and mirrors. What's going on that we're wasting time talking about this? What's going on that we have to continually bring up the smoking issue? Something else going on? Or money going someplace? Somebody's pockets open? I've become very mistrustful of career politicians. Once you get above dog catcher, somebody's going to come along and say, hey, you, how about if we give you a little of this and you vote that way? And you don't think that happens in the city of Cleveland? You don't think there's dirty politics in the city of Cleveland? Politics in Cleveland's as dirty or worse than the daily political machine of the 1960s in Chicago. And if you can prove to me that I'm wrong, I'll kiss your ass on public square at noontime. The thing is, you can't do it. You can't prove it. Gloria.
Hi, Rick.
Howdy.
Hey, I've been listening to you for years, and I just wanted to say a couple things. I agree with you totally about the smoking issue. I've agreed with you about most issues, but I don't agree with you about what you're talking about with George Bush and Iraq. You're right, it was not preempted. But look at one thing. I have one question for you. Have we had any terrorist strikes since?
Not that we've called terrorist strikes.
Right.
Not that we've labeled.
Think about that.
But wait a minute. Not that we have labeled terrorist strikes. You remember when the plane went down over Queens?
Yes.
They never called that.
Immediately after.
They never called that a terrorist strike.
Well, I'm sure it was.
Well, I spoke with a guy who worked for the airlines, and he said that would be like you driving down the street and having your hood, your trunk, and your doors all fall off without having anyone tamper with your car.
Well, now, see, that could happen to me as a normal American because I have lousy cars.
No.
But, no, I'm just kidding around. But you're right. You're right about that.
See, so if there is something going on and there's an explosion or a fire or
terrible,
they're not going to call them a They're not going to call them a terrorist attack because that way, if they did, they would say, well, gee, obviously.
Well, then George would look bad.
Right. He'd be losing the war on terror.
But I think you're totally against what he's doing, and I think that he's done us some good. That's what I'm trying to say.
What happens is when an offense is leveled on the United States, I'm trying to paraphrase Noam Chomsky. He said when an offense is
I know, I've heard you, yeah.
Is leveled on, because I do not have the book in front of me. I'm doing this from memory.
That's okay. I'll grab mine.
And he says, you have that book? He talks about
I have it somewhere around here, but go ahead.
When a privately sponsored terror group does something like fly planes into buildings, we are supposed to, as an international police community, track down the people and arrest them. We are not supposed to go into Afghanistan. That's going to fix the problem.
That's our normal policy. That's what we've been exercising for years and years and years. But when you're dealing with crazy, insane people, you have to try something different, don't you think?
Let me ask you two questions.
Go ahead.
What was the nationality of the people that flew the planes into the buildings?
As far as we know, they were Pakistani or they were...
They were predominantly Saudi.
Saudi, yeah.
Why are we not in Saudi Arabia?
I think George is too afraid to go in there right now, but...
What do they got as an army? All they got are sabers. They got big swords. That's about it.
Saudi Arabia is a big threat because of Israel.
No, Saudi Arabia is a big threat because of the energy.
Israel for years. So
it's about the energy. I want you to check out. Do you do a lot of reading?
I do a fair amount, but not a lot. I wouldn't say I do a lot, no.
I'll give you real quick one easy place you can go to try and get some links. stormandnorm.com.
Okay.
With two N's in the middle. Otherwise, if it's not Storm and Norm with two N's in the middle, you're going to get some guy that sells RVs. Go to the go to the energy links and look at something that a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to research that the average person does not have time in the day, and it will give you legitimate links to Middle Eastern news sources and what's really going on. And trust me on this, Gloria, and I got to run, Tigress. Trust me on this. It is about the energy. Here's the way if not all wars, here's the way, we'll erase that other part out of the tape and no one will ever hear it. Here's the way all wars work. Someone wins, someone loses, someone profits. Think about it. There's no money in peace. constant conflict equals constant cash. That's why I've been talking about having an upcoming classic American car and American bike car show to try and raise some money to help the troops, because they don't have a say. They're the pawns in the grand chessboard. There's another good one. Get Zbigniew Brzezinski's book there, The Grand Chessboard. He talked about what's going on now years ago. They've got a plan. Don't tell me I'm nuts, because I can prove I'm not. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend. More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
WTAM 1100. Cyber vote.
Do you pay any attention to terrorist alert levels?
On that note.
At WTAM.com.
Boom, 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 boom. Well. Right back to the program. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend. Our cyber vote at WTAM.com. Do you pay any attention to the terrorist alert levels? 50% of you say no. Well, you know, they got all these different colors, and, you know, in Lakewood there, you know what happens? They said when the terror alert goes to lavender, it's time to redecorate the bathroom.
Again?
Yeah, well, when it goes to lavender, you know, they have to redecorate the bathroom. But Jake from Maryland or Barkeyville or wherever you're at.
You know what? I really miss the D.C. sniper incident going on, because I used to listen to the BBC World Service overnight, and they always used to say, and the sniper suspect in Maryland. That's how they say it. Maryland.
Maryland. Well, in all actuality, Maryland was probably named after Queen Mary.
Well, actually it was, but it's just funny to hear it that way now when you're so accustomed to Maryland.
Yeah, they wouldn't say Quinn Mara.
Noam freaking Chomsky?
Well,
really, Rick?
I try to read all kinds of things. Try to get all sides.
I try to read all kinds of things, too, but when I read the American Free Press, I know they're anti-Semites, so I put it away and burn it.
And so Noam Chomsky is anti-what?
Oh, boy. Where do you want to start?
Start at the beginning.
I think he's anti-American. The whole idea. I understand, and I know. I just want to know, what did we gain out of Vietnam? You know, I know we lost planes, helicopters, people over there. Okay, so we had to replace planes, helicopters, tanks, people, a small boat. Okay, so the companies that made the things made money because we were losing those things. Today in our wars, we don't lose a freaking thing. We lose a couple of people, and that's it. And nobody, well, somebody makes people, but not a company doesn't make people.
Well, how do you put a price on people? Noam has said that he was not against World War II. He was all for it.
And I understand that part of it, but just using the military-industrial complex, where does it come into play now?
Well, I guess the point I should have made more clearly then is what Noam Chomsky said was, we know what we got out of World War II. We got peace. What are we getting out of attacking Afghanistan and Iraq?
Well, you know what? Like you said, and he said, you know, where do these people come from? Saudi Arabia. They got their young schooling in Saudi Arabia, but they got trained in Afghanistan. You know what the good thing is? Most of these terrorist cell people that are over here now, they're getting money and they're living a life they could never live in their home country, and I don't think a lot of them are going to activate themselves because they're saying, well, the hell with this, I kind of like this. There's strip clubs, there's prostitutes, there's gambling, there's whores, near West Side hillbilly whores with their summer teeth in. You know, some are there and some aren't. We have too much sex over here, and they have not enough.
No, that's right.
Even things out a little bit, I think would be okay. But I truthfully have no problem. You know, you got Ramsey Clark, who's a Chomsky follower, down there in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where we brought people from terrorist camps in Afghanistan and took them there, and they're going, oh, my God, they're being mistreated. You know what? They're still alive. They're getting fed. They're getting taken care of. Nobody's being mistreated here. except for the 3,000 people that died in our country. But, I mean, it's just ridiculous for these people, and I do include Chomsky, Clark, everybody from the Workers' World Party, you know, the communists.
Now, wait, since when is a decorated Vietnam combat veteran general part of the communist group? You're trying to lump in...
When he has the views that he does?
See, you disagree with his views, but that's what America's all about, is that Noam Chomsky is not un-American because you disagree with him. That makes us all true Americans for asking questions. No one's going to the gulag here.
I agree that you can ask questions. I'm all in favor of that, except that some of the questions you're asking, you know, might already have answers. What are you doing with these people in Guantanamo Bay? We're interrogating them. They tried to kill us.
But don't you find it a dichotomy that the United States has a double standard where they say, well, look what the terrorists did to us, and yes, as grave and severe as it was, people around the world say, well, that's just another terrorist attack. And what about the United States when they go do something like what we did to Nicaragua, which killed tens of thousands of people? And Nicaragua, let me finish, tries to go through the proper channels through the UN, and the U.S. says, screw that, and see, it's okay for us to inflict that on other countries, but when it happens to us, oh, heaven forbid, and the excrement has hit the oscillator from here on out.
What was happening there before we did what we did?
What did we change by going in and killing people? That's the question that people ask. Was it a just war?
The other people got killed instead of the people that were getting killed. Not that it was a good thing, but you know what? When you're looking at all the situations, you know, so if we didn't do what we did in Nicaragua, everything would be fine.
Well, see, what I question is,
people would still be getting killed.
See, we supported Saddam Hussein when he was wiping out tons of his own people, because we liked him because we hated Iran.
We supported the Indians because we wanted them to fight the British and the French, and then we killed them. And that's what happens. It makes
does that make it right?
No, absolutely not. But
all right, well then we've agreed on something.
This big giant conspiracy that, oh my God, that we did 9/11 and
I did not ascribe to that. I said some people have asked that question, and it's a question that people can ask if they want to. I'm not going Star Trekky and going to some of these conspiracy. I'm not naming the names. I mean, people sent me a tape of something, and and I already had seen it, and I'm not going there. I'm not trying to get Star Trekky on you. I'm not trying to go way out there. I'm just saying there's some questions that need to be asked, and the U.S. can stomp all over and do whatever we want to, and tough beans. But conversely, Chomsky did say you could pick a little tiny country like Luxembourg, and if they could get away with it, they'd be doing it too. It's always been that way. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't, there's those certain moral truisms, and if you're going to be wanting to be treated one way and yet you act another, well, you're not being very morally true, at least to yourself or others, so...
Well, you brought up the fact that it was that other people said, well, that's just an act of terrorism. Well, you know what? I mean, even in Israel, where it's probably the worst, maybe Indonesia's pretty bad because they like to kill Christians too, but the fact that they kill 5 people, 2 people, 8 people, maybe 13 in a nightclub, you know what? They killed 3,000 in one shot. It's a lot different.
And we killed 10,000 by blowing up a pharmaceutical plant in the Sudan, to which tens of thousands of people died. But see, that to us was not an act of terrorism, but I would bet to them it was.
And I agree that we do have a little too much free reign because Bush is doing it for his reasons. Clinton did it for his reasons.
Yeah,
and I do think we should slow it down a little bit. But to think that it's a giant, grand, if it's as far as some of these people, whether it's Chomsky or Clark or Alex Jones, for Christ's sake.
There's a name I did not mention on purpose.
I know. There's a good reason you didn't mention him, because he did not. But anyways, the things that these people bring up, if it's that far along, we are so already done that it don't matter.
Okay, let me give you an example of... one of the reasons that was cited when we went into Bosnia was that we had to go in there to stop Slobodan Milosevic and the ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, right.
Now, what happened was, after the bombing was when the ethnic cleansing began, and they asked Wesley Clark at some tribunal in France, or God knows where, was somewhere in Europe, and they said, was that why? And he said, of course not. That's certainly not one of the reasons why we went in there. Well,
Okay,
does that make him a nut because he was saying something that in his mind was the truth?
But people were talking about that like there was some cadmium hidden up in the hills that we were going to go over there and mine and things like that. And I'm like, you know what? There's ways to get things, and I know, that we might want to force our hand if people aren't giving us stuff. But, just the things that come up, and, Wesley Clark, let me keep him away from Ramsey Clark, but he's the one that's going to run for president.
Well, he has not announced yet, but he's putting out some feelers.
Okay, but he did the Bosnia thing, right?
Well, yeah, I suppose, and I thought about that. I suppose as a good general, you do what you're told or they take away your stars.
But that's going against everything you're talking about tonight, right?
Well, no, I mean, that gets into a whole military thing where now let's drag in Bergen-Belsen guards, and if they hadn't prodded people into showers, they would have been underground themselves. That in times of war, that sort of thing, I suppose that maybe there is no moral truism in the time of war because people are saying, look, they're going to lose and we're going to win. And that's that. That's that. Whether we're right or wrong, we're in this thing now, and by God, we're going to do it.
Well, I still like you, Rick.
It's worth questioning. It's worth thinking about.
Youth has a good show.
I used to.
No, you used to.
Is that what?
You got a good show.
Oh, I thought you were going to say. I thought you said you used to have a good show. Look, I found out a long time ago. I've been doing talk radio in one fashion or another for almost 15 years, and I learned a long time ago that just like the rookie police officer that's going to get rid of all the crime in town, sooner or later you say, you know what, you got to try and do what you can, and try and do what you can the best you can, but you're not going to fix the world. And I know damn well I can't fix the world, but if I can spend a few hours making people think about what we're doing in this world and ask a few questions, then I feel like it's a good kind of tired.
Well, I liked your grassroots effort with the smoking thing the other week, and I think that's what has to be done in this country. I think we, as the people, aren't taking care of what we need to take care of, whether it's going to vote or voting with our dollar. Everybody goes, oh, geez, we got to get out of the Middle East and get away from their oil and stuff. Well, you know what? Don't buy your freaking gas at BP then, moron.
Hey, Jake.
That's where they get all their oil from.
Jake, I got someone wants to talk to you.
Okay.
All right. Scott,
hello.
Say hi to Jake.
Yeah, hi, Jake.
What's up, Scott?
Question. Do you favor going into Liberia?
I don't know enough about that particular situation.
Because I find a lot of the chicken hawks, the ones that just beat their ground. And I'm a Gulf War veteran, by the way. I don't know. Did you serve in the military, Jake?
No, I didn't.
Well?
I lost a leg in the...
Oh, come on. I've met you. You have both your legs.
Go ahead. But,
I find it interesting that, a lot of the chicken hawks that were all for going into Iraq all of a sudden are having trouble making up their mind about Liberia. I mean, gee, if...
Did Mr. Taylor ever threaten us?
Pardon me?
Did Mr. Taylor in Liberia ever threaten us?
Saddam Hussein never did.
Do you have a television?
Yeah.
Do you get the newspaper?
I listen to the BBC and the CBC.
And so do I. And you never heard Saddam Hussein threaten America, the great Satan.
How did he threaten us?
Which time? Do you want to start with the first Gulf War, which you were in, or the second one? I've heard it. I think other people have heard it. Slobodan Milosevic, I never heard him say anything about America.
Did you ever see because that war was under Clinton and you don't like Clinton?
No, I don't agree with bombing people that aren't affecting us.
And the Iraqis didn't. We bombed them for 12 years under the no-fly zone.
Bush, Clinton did that too, right?
Bush, Clinton, and Bush.
Okay, great. As long as we're being fair. But my point is, I think we had a problem there. Yes, we supported him. Yes, he was our buddy to fight Iran. I mean,
Donald Rumsfeld was the very person who went there and arranged the transfer of all the poison gases we sold him.
And that's I agree with you. That's a fact. You're absolutely right.
So let me jump in here then. So where are we going with this end towards moral truism I mean, basically, we're going to do whatever we want to do, and we can sit around and bitch about it on the radio, and they're going to do whatever they're going to do anyway.
Whatever serves corporate America, Rick.
And the people that supported Clinton will say, look what's happening now, but the people that supported the Republicans when Clinton was in would say, look what happened then. It doesn't matter which party is elected because they have a larger, grander goal, and I think that Clinton shared the vision of the New World Order as much as anyone else, or you wouldn't have heard of NAFTA and GATT and all that.
No, Iraq never threatened us. I mean, that's just right-wing nonsense. They invaded Kuwait, sure. Saddam Hussein, was he a bad man? Killed a lot of his own people? Sure. Same thing happening in Liberia, Iran, Sudan, Libya, Cuba. Well, I mean, where do we end? I mean,
well, that's just like the flack over Elian Gonzalez. Why do we let him go back to Cuba? When that's such a horrible place, yet China's okay.
No, I don't think China's okay, and I didn't agree sending Gonzalez back to Cuba. I think it was a mistake.
Well, once again, we agree on that. I just see...
But you're very simplistic, Jake. You're very simplistic. You play loose with the facts. And as a veteran, hearing someone who's never served in the military, all this gung-ho stuff, until you've actually had to shoot somebody, and see your buddies be killed next to you and their blood and their brains coming out. I don't mean to be gross, Rick, but until that actually happens, you really don't know what you're talking about in terms of war.
Okay, and if you never had kids, you can't talk about kids. If you were never married, you can't talk about being married. If you were never divorced, you can't talk about being divorced. John McCain, wasn't he a great war hero? You know what? He's a nutcase. He wants to stop people from smoking. He doesn't want to let people have sports that they want to have. He wants to ban mixed martial arts fighting in this country. The guy's a nutcase. But because he was a war hero, now he's God, right?
Well, and Bush was a draft dodger for 13 months, and he's president.
Bush was a what?
He had a 2-year service eligibility requirement in the Texas Air National Guard. He was absent for 13 months. Never accounted for. Why isn't this being brought up?
Well, I mean,
where is the paperwork on that?
Everybody has their drinking binges. I mean.
Yeah, a real long weekend, right, Rick?
Yeah, well, made Ray Milland look like a piker.
Exactly. No, I just wanted to respond because I get so tired of these chicken hawks who've never seen combat get on there and tout how great this was. And
what about Donald Rumsfeld? Is he a chicken hawk? Is Colin Powell a chicken hawk?
Donald Rumsfeld is Dr. Strangelove reborn.
I think they all served. Gallantly.
Oh, and where was Dick Cheney during the war?
Okay, we can pick tit for tat, but you address Donald Rumsfeld, who's doing it now. Colin Powell, who's doing it now.
He said tat.
Yeah, Donald Rumsfeld, the modern-day equivalent of Dr. Strangelove. I mean, I can't wait to hear about the next mine shaft gap.
Mein Führer, I can walk! All right, guys, it's been a fun run, but I'm getting bored.
Thanks.
Take care, Rick.
All right, I'll see you. Yeah, well, actually, I wasn't getting bored, but there's other folks that want to speak as well. And do you see where this is like the example of when I had the Palestinian and the Israeli on the phone, and they went at it for 15 minutes, because I have the luxury of time occasionally. And, I mean, black and white people can't get along. Here's 2 white people can't get along. They're on the phone, They can't get along. Nobody gets along with anybody. Get a few beers in most people, and they'll punch their mother. I mean, people are just... This is... the most fascinating thing about life is life itself, just human nature. People hate people for the strangest reasons, and yet we wonder why there's wars. And look at that round blue thing you have on the stand that rotates with all those countries, and all those little lines were drawn out by what? Wars. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 forecaster Eileen McShay. Tonight, some thunderstorms possible. I'm looking up on Triple Doppler radar up there. It looks like some storms out over Lake Erie, but relatively clear behind it with some area west of Sandusky, but nothing too heavy. The heavy stuff looks like it's right out over Lake between us and Sarsfield, Toronto. Let the rain go up there and wash the poop out of the apartment buildings that made everybody sick. Low near 70 tomorrow, cloudy, more of the same weather, some showers, thunderstorms in this changeable atmosphere. Keep it right here to your primary one weather station, that's us. High near 90, currently 80 degrees in Cleveland, 80. Get your complete Cavaliers coverage of the Chosen One as Is that Jesus? Oh, no, it's LeBron James. I'm sorry. As Mike Snyder reports from the Summer Games in Orlando next week, brought to you by the award-winning Renaissance Orlando Resort at SeaWorld. And you know, anytime you go to some place that it has the Renaissance name on it, you're not often disappointed, are you? It's fancy stuff. Your Cavs mothership is the big one. That's us. News Radio, WTAM 1100. Chris, talk to me.
Hey, how you doing, Rick?
Great.
Hey, I heard you had a date set for that car show out there?
Well, nothing's written in stone yet.
Okay, because I'd like to offer my services for that.
Oh, you would, and Chris DJ'd my ill-fated wedding.
That was me.
Well, you know, here's what I'm trying to do, if I can pull it off, and I appreciate the offer. I was going to try and get us to have Magic just wheel around their truck if we have it here at the building, and then do some...
even better.
Yeah, do some kind of a cross-promote or something, maybe.
Yeah.
And then that way, because I figured older cars, or old cars and bikes, American cars and bikes, well, oldies music. It seems to fit hand and glove, except for the OJ thing.
Well, once you guys, if the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit.
That's right.
If you decide that you finally get a date, get some flyers out to the local jacks, because we can promote that for you.
Yeah, I wanted to get it in the Cruisin' Times magazine, too.
Definitely. But, I mean, what I do is I stick all the current car show events into the Cruisin' Times that I sell every month.
Oh, I got you.
So that way, when they come up and buy one off me, they got a whole pile of flyers and there's stuff going on. So it's kind of a nice way to hand them out. And plus, if the windows are down at the car shows, you can just shove them right in the windows. We can usually go through a couple hundred flyers in a week.
Oh, I got you. All right.
Flyers are cheap,
And you know what they said if the glove did fit? Oh, crap.
You wouldn't be golfing.
No, O.J. Simpson, the whitest black man in America.
Ain't that the truth?
I mean, does he have any black friends? I mean, he's like Cosby's opposite. He doesn't want to hang around with any of those black people. He's
colorblind. Maybe the Al-Qaeda was black.
Yeah, he's very white. Huh?
Yeah, so get us some flyers. We'll get that
one
out.
black
I think
friend.
that's great, and your parking lot is huge down there. If you get permission to use that...
Yes, I already have permission.
It'd be a mammoth parking lot. It'd be a fantastic car show.
I ran it by Ray Davis, and he said, sounds like a good idea. Let's wait until the whole Glenn Beck thing's over with. Okay, all right. I gotta go, that kind of thing, so...
Sounds like Ray. Gotta, get on his heels and say, come on, let's get this done.
Well, it seemed to have a nice homey feel to it, didn't it? That we could have it right here at the radio station. You could have the little Magic Calliope thing out there, truck out there, and me in a tent, and then some bikinis, some girls in bikinis washing cars.
Yeah.
And Jingles the Clown expressed some interest in coming down and doing some face painting and balloon animals and
maybe
that sort of thing.
Maybe the Platinum or Crazy Horse girls will come down and make an appearance for you.
Well, I'd be thrilled if I could just introduce when they have the new Cavaliers dance team that they're choosing this month.
Well, there you go.
I'd like to have them come down and we could show them off, too. I think it's a win-win situation.
A little PR, hand out some flyers.
And a good time would be had by all. I'm going to go smoke a cigarette.
Some autographs, and yeah, it'd be great. I appreciate it.
All right.
So give me some flyers, and we'll get it out for you.
I will, thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, we'll leave out all that nasty stuff about him DJing my ill-fated wedding. That had nothing to do with them, you know what I mean? My wife was a nut. That's all. My ex-wife was a nut. That's all there was to it. I think her head's shrinking. Shriveling. Atrophied. All right. I'm Rick Gilmour, the cynical, jaded, thinking man's friend. More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
The following material may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
It might be. You never know what you might hear on this program.
Gonads are useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute for brains.
I can hear Ray now, Ray Davis, program director. Why do you play stuff like that, Ray? Well, what does it have to do with the program at all? Nothing. I'm just an idiot. Plain and simple. Right, big voice man? Who's the idiot?
The Rick Gilmour Show on News Radio WTAM 1100.
Broadcasting live from the cultural void of Independence, Ohio. Phone number 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code, toll-free 888-723-WTAM. Got some email at gilly@WTAM.com. Why don't you air the Drudge Report on Sunday nights? Well, what are you trying to do, take away my job? Drudge Report comes on at midnight. Now, as soon as I win the Super Lotto, then you'll get the Drudge Report at 11 o'clock. I'll come to work for free every Sunday and do 2 hours. You can write that down. In case you're in management, write that down. Rick said he'll work for free after I win the Super Lotto. And I'm not talking about 1,500. I'm talking about 15 million. And I'll take a little hiatus and dip my toes in the hot sand of Costa Rica. And then I'll come back and do Sunday nights from 9 to 11. How about that? That's a promise. Or in case I inherit a lot of money from some elderly person out there, if you're listening and you're well-to-do and you're uncertain as to who to leave your money to, remember who entertained you in your twilight years. I'll put it to good use. Go out and get me a brand new Lincoln Town Car Cartier L with a padded top and a small rear window, and pay somebody to drive me around and that sort of thing, and live in a 2-bedroom house with a 10-bay garage. I want a garage bigger than my house. Well, you can dream, can't you? Yes, you can. Well, where are we going here? I see the calls all over the board. John, yes. Yes, you can go, Edmund. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Great.
Hey, you know what? I heard your comment about your ex. You know, you said she was crazy.
Well, she's a little nutty. I could give I could give you a good.
Wait, this is. I got to tell you something.
Yeah.
Because I heard that, and it's like, now I'm divorced too. Okay. My wife one time told me she saw a dwarf run through the house. She said he was like green leotards, and he ran through the house. And I was like, you gotta be kidding, you know? And it's like, she goes, no. And she told my kids that, and I was like, you know.
Let me give you 2 examples. One of them was we were driving to Florida, and there was a garbage bag. Like somebody had taken a bag of garbage and thrown it off to the side of the road. Now, this we were newlyweds. I mean, literally, driving to our honeymoon. And she starts going, And I said, what? She said, there's puppies in a bag. I said, what? And, I mean, I'm driving, right? I'm doing like 75 miles an hour. I'm like, what did you just say? And she said, people take puppies and throw them, and they put them in bags, and they throw them out on the side of the road. And I said, honey, I think that's probably garbage. I highly doubt that it's filled with puppies or kittens. Now, let me fast forward to we're divorced several months, and we go to different places to avoid each other, right? I go to the VFW because I'm a card-carrying member of the club, and you have to put a card in the door to get in, and I figure that way it weeds out all the goofy, goofiness of humanity sometimes. Right. I mean, when people start coming up to you after a show and they're wearing their pajamas and they're in a bar, sometimes I wonder if that's a good idea or not. So I go in, and I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to a buddy of mine, Tom. He's a World War II vet, good guy, and he's into old cars, too. We're sitting there talking cars, and I'm having a beer, and all of a sudden I look, and here comes someone from the ladies' room, and I look, and I'm like, oh, my God, that's her. Now, I didn't see her car outside. If I would have seen her car, I wouldn't even have gone in, right? So she goes down. Now, let me tell you this whole story and tell me if she's nuts. She goes down to the other end of the bar where her and about 3 friends are, and one of her friends is another guy who's in there, his ex-wife. So we got 2 ex-wives with both in the same place, and she is now let me see if I can set this up. There's a woman who works there that is now dating this guy who his ex-wife is in there.
Oh, man.
Now, she works there, right? Oh. And my ex starts yelling at her saying, you brought my ex-husband in here. You brought my ex-husband in here. And this woman, Joanne, says, no, I think that, you know what? I think that Rick has every right to be in here. I've known him since we were teenagers, and I work here. And who are you to tell me that I'm bringing him in here? He's got a card. That's how he got in. They get into an argument, and the woman who works there storms out. Called her a name, and I mean called her the King Daddy of names, and stormed out.
Well, you beat me on that one.
No, it's not done yet, right?
Yeah.
So now I sit there and I'm talking to my buddy Tom for a little while longer, and maybe 20 minutes goes by, and I put my coat on and I'm getting ready to leave, and the barmaid comes up to me and says, you have a drink coming on Nikki. And I look at her and I go, because there's women down there I don't know, right? So I go, my ex-wife, Nikki? And she goes, yeah. And I said, all right. Okay, whatever. I mean, and then she goes, yeah, I know. I'll tell her you said thanks or whatever. I says, yeah, I ain't saying nothing. So I get this beer, I drink it down, I never even look at her, I leave a tip, and I walk out the door. Now, my buddy Jerry, the Icelandic plumber friend, who, by the way, ladies, is not currently available, he says, Rick, you should have got that beer and a shot left them both sit there, and walked out. And I said, no, the way I look at it, she only owes me 24,999 beers now. Now, why in God's name would you scream and yell at a woman who works at that bar about her bringing me in there when she obviously didn't, and then 20 minutes, half an hour later, buy me a beer? Now,
scary.
Can you figure that out?
That is scary, man.
I cannot figure that. I sat and I thought, this woman has got to be clearly insane. I mean, literally. I mean, you know, and I started thinking back on, you know what's amazing about women? We never even argued before we split up.
Uh-huh.
And the last time I talked to her before it turned really ugly and the lawyer got involved and everything, she regaled me. And this is a woman who got her GED with the skin of her teeth. Regaled me with story after story about every disagreement and every argument that we ever had in the 3.5 years that we lived together. I mean, I thought, what does she have, a list? What did she write this stuff down? I thought, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, man.
I thought, gee, did you remember any of the 1,000 good things that happened? No, but you had 14 and a half things that were, and you once told me to grow up. No, really? No, really? And I was crying, and you told me to grow up.
Oh, Rick, that's too much, man. You got me beat, man. It's like, that is like...
Here's an even better story that I told myself I was not going to tell, but I'll tell it anyway because I'm an idiot. And I cannot prove anything, and I'm not going to name any names. It's funny that all of a sudden I got a notice from my mortgage company that they said, how come you don't have homeowner's insurance? What? So I call my normally friendly agent, and he says, yeah, you're SOL, bye, more or less, right? I start thinking about it, and I started thinking, you know, I would have paid it if I would have got a bill. How come I'm easy to reach by email? I have several phone numbers. No one ever bothered calling me, and then I thought about it, and I thought, oh, and that's right. And I got her because he's friends with her stepfather.
Oh.
Well, I cannot prove anything, and the people at the company thought it was a rather amusing story, and I said, that's all right, I'll just shop with someone else. I said, I cannot prove anything, but you know what? After 42 years, any damn thing is possible. And then
oh, man, you're talking to a seasoned veteran, believe me. It's like, that's... Absolutely. Well, like I said, it's like when I heard you say that, it was like...
How old are you?
47.
Okay, now, see, a buddy of mine comes up to me and says, well, Rick, how old are you? And at the time, I was 41. I said, 41. He goes, I got a great place you can go to meet girls your age. I said, what in the hell do I want to do that for? He said, well, maybe you could have a decent conversation with them. I said, maybe I'm not interested in a decent conversation. And the idea is, if you like the girls that are in their 20s, date them, do not marry them. Date them, do not marry them.
Oh, man, that's too much.
Yeah, I don't want to go meet some 42-year-old with all kinds of baggage and 2 kids. That's what they got. I've met some very nice women, and they're telling me all about their 2 kids and this and that and their ex, and I'm thinking, the last thing you want to do when you're giving me your phone number is to have a litany of, and then, you know, a litany of problems that you're still carrying around baggage.
And that's what I told my ex. I said, you got 2 kids. You got 2 teenage kids. It's like, what are you nuts? It's like, you know, it's like, you dump me, and it's like, man, oh, man, it's like, who the hell, I mean, would I pick up somebody like that in a bar?
You should see the guy that she was, like, all ready to just move right in with.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's like, good luck, baby.
I mean, this guy's older than I am, got long hair and a beard and a beak for a nose, and he stands at the bar and smokes little cigars and brays like a donkey. Brays like a donkey. They're made for each other. They're clearly stuck in hell with each other.
I know, man. I tell you, man, it's like, hey, I'm going to let you go, Rick.
Now, I'm going to let you go first. I've decided that if I ever get in a serious relationship again, I'm going to take my friend Sue years ago. She's a DJ, used to be on another station in town. I'm not sure what she's doing now, but she said, Rick, you know, she says, how many girlfriends and fiancés and a wife, and, you know, they always bitch and moan about radio is the other woman. I remember one time coming to work and talking with Jim Meltzer, the big boss, when I was doing the After Triv gig. And I says, I got this woman that, you know, I really like her. And she said to me that unless I'd quit radio, she wanted nothing more to do with me. And he said, well, then she obviously doesn't feel the same way about you as you feel toward her, or she would be interested in your career. Then I thought, well, that's a good point, don't you think? So I thought, speaking with this Sue girl, she says to me, well, you know, she says, I think you really need to date a professional woman. You know, you need to hook up with a lady lawyer who's involved with her career as well. And maybe a divorced lady lawyer who knows how crappy it is to go through a divorce. And then that way, when you two do spend quality time together, it's just that. And I thought, well, maybe that's good advice for anyone and everyone who's ever been divorced, and that's 57% of us. Is that if you find somebody that if you're really into your job, maybe they're really into your job too, and or they're really into their job, or, you know, like I say, at least they're supportive or whatever, and then when you do get to spend time together, it's quality time. And maybe, I don't know if it's possible, maybe I need to date a woman that's smarter than I am. Is that possible? Are they out there? I don't know. I'm pretty smart. I'll pat myself on the back there. Larry, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick, what's up?
Hey, just venting, I guess.
You need to find a girl who's into oral sex in big cars. That's the best. I've already found. Anyway, go ahead. I love your philosophy, man. You're just like me, man. You hit the lottery, little house, big garage. That's how I want a 10-bay garage.
I want a 10-bay garage. I want a bar. I want bedrooms in my garage. I want it heated. I want it air-conditioned. I want a big office in there. I could spend more time in the garage and have a couple bays in there, a couple lifts, that kind of thing, you know?
Dude, yeah, a bay in each one so you can put a car on top and the bottom.
Yeah, one of those ones where you can store the vehicles, too, where they have the one on the bottom and the one above it, so you're not taking up too much space.
And it's just so amazing, man, because you're just so like me. Like I said, I not too long ago, I seen my old girlfriend, and I'm thinking to myself, God, what did I see in her, you know? And then I see this little troll she's with, you know, another alcoholic troll. And I'm like, maybe that's the best thing she did for me, you know, man, you know?
I think the best gift that God ever granted me is that I'm just like every other dude in Cleveland. I mean, everyone I run into, it's like we may disagree on a few things here and there, but when it comes right, I went to the VFW when I left Glenbeck's Real American Fourth. I stopped there to drop off some stuff, and they had hot dogs, and I grabbed one, and I put the thing in the bun, and I put the stuff on top, and I'm eating it at the bar, and this guy is standing there, and he goes, "You eat a hot dog like a man." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Some people stick it lengthwise into their mouth. You chomp down on the top." And I said, "Yeah, because the bun's only there to hold all the stuff."
Right.
No, I don't eat the bun. You're eating a chili dog. You're eating the chili and the hot dog, and you got a bunch of sloppy bun in your hands, and you throw it out.
Hey, man, it's like anything else. Man. This town is full of women. I seen a girl the other day almost crash my car, man. I swear to God, she was so fine. Anyway, the reason I called you, I wonder if you heard. Did you hear about Kobe Bryant? He got busted.
You know, I heard Cliff mention something about it, and I was preoccupied doing email and this and that, and what happened?
I guess this happened in Colorado. I guess he got busted, and they were talking to some detective, sexual assault and battery and everything, man, in some hotel in Colorado.
Well, you got to be careful until all the facts are in, because how often have we heard about a sports figure, Mike Tyson aside, that is accused of something, and it happens to anyone in the professional world, that there might be some, speaking of, jilted lovers or that sort of thing, that if you're accused, they have to investigate it. The cops got no choice. They got to investigate it, and then they let the prosecutor weed out whether or not there's enough to go after somebody. So until we get all the facts, you know, somebody might just have some sour grapes and say, well, I'll get you. I'll get you.
Well, they're talking on CNN. It was on the thing. They were talking that he was arrested. The way they're saying, he got arrested and everything. So who knows? Maybe this girl, you know how women, all the women out there, like I was telling my mom one day, women are all stupid. I mean, no matter what, they're all psychos, no matter what. And if you want to know what your girlfriend's going to look like in age, look at the mother.
Oh, right? Absolutely. The apple does not fall far from the tree.
And
you know, remember the saying that I was told by. While I got you here, let me sneak in my triple Doppler forecast from TV3's Irene McShay. Tonight, cloudy. Some storms possible out there. Low near 70. Tomorrow, high near 90 with about the same kind of changeable weather. Currently 78 degrees in Cleveland, 78. Where the hell was I? Yeah, the apple just does not fall far from the tree, and that's the truth. And the saying was, everyone's mother is a saint, and all the rest are whores.
You got it, dude.
And if you live by that rule until... See, I'm Mr. Trusting guy. I'm the guy that until somebody lies to me, I believe them implicitly. And then the problem is that maybe I am too trusting, and then people are lying to me and I don't understand it. And then when it finally gets to the point where a cop has to say to me, do you want to know what your wife's doing while you're at work? Well, now, how do you answer a question like that? You say no? No, you say, now I got to know.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person, people, I take what they say a grain of salt, so I'm around them, I get to know them, and I see what they're like, and see what they're like under the influence, and then you see what they're really like.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that my ex-wife went out of her way to behave herself around me for years and years and just snapped and couldn't stand trying to behave herself anymore and just ran amok. And that's what she's doing now. And her boyfriend's a pig, and they can both run amok together. And
well, I know we talked about it off the air, but I know the best thing she ever happened was she met you, dude. And now her life is going down the old porcelain receptacle.
When one of her friends came up to me and said, you know what? One of her friends said she traded in a silver dollar, a shiny silver dollar, for a plug nickel, Rick. I said, well.
And, dude, I know we talked I got my caddy out of storage in. I'm cleaning it up. One of these nights, dude, we're going to go out cruising, and my caddy, man, we're going to party. And I got some lineup on some strippers and that, man. We're going to have a good time, buddy. I mean that.
Yeah, I'm going to a strip club tomorrow night.
Well, put $1 in someplace for me, too, man.
I will, thanks.
You have a good one, I'm going to let you go.
All right, well, I'm letting you go first, and I already do. Tim, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing?
Timski, talk to me.
Well, you were asking for a bar owner to call in, so I thought I'd call in. I own a bar, and it's in Elyria, and I probably don't want to tell you which one because of the reprisals. I live in a police state here.
Have I been to your bar?
I don't know.
Okay.
Not that I know of, but I'm not always there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't get out to Elyria all that often, but when I do, I mean, I don't know what really Then again, there's that word that I just can't let go out over the air, and it's one of these days I'll change the FCC regulations because it's late at night, and it was just the S word, and so it's not the end of the world, not that kind of thing. It's just one of those things that if I didn't dump it, somebody'd have to get that phone call on Monday morning, and I'd see if I were a less than honest person did not believe in moral truisms. I'd say, well, it wasn't my fault. My dump button didn't work. I'd blame Edmund. But I'm not going to do that. No, not at all. I want you to think about this. How about traveling with the tribe to the Big Apple? Listen for your cue to call, and you can win Indians tickets to see a game at Jacobs Field and qualify for the grand prize to win a trip to see the Indians play the Yankees in New York. From us, the big one, News Radio, WTAM 1100. Well, there's one thing I guarantee you that I will not do on this program, and that is dwell. I do not dwell on the minutiae of relationships for too long, because I have heard folks on the radio that do that, and as long as it's something that everyone can sort of say, yeah, I've been there, done that. However, it does make you leery about any kind of a long-term relationship with people after one goes sour, and of course, I talked to a guy one night who is in his 70s, looked pretty good for his age. I would have guessed he was about 60. Him and his wife of 38 years. One day she said, that's it. The kids are all grown, they're out of college, they're on their own, they're this and that. I'm sick of you, I'm tired of you, goodbye. Maybe it was 28 years. Maybe it was 28 years. And then he was alone for something like 11 years after that. Sheesh, I don't know about waiting that long. Be the 11th caller right now at 578-1111 in the classic 216 area code. And win a Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York movie there on VHS cassette. Someone emailed me, Gilly at WTAM.com, why do not you talk about this little movie that was made in Cleveland called American Splendor? It's going to win an Oscar. I'm baffled why you news guys don't know about this flick. I don't get out much anymore. I guess I just don't go to see a lot of movies. Just perfectly honest. I'm skinny. I don't like sitting in a movie seat for a couple hours. Got a bony ass. Hurts. Eric, you're on the big one.
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
All right.
Good. You talked last hour about Hegel's dialectic and how we're kind of, that you thought that basically our war would go against Hegel's concepts of antithesis and thesis and, making, of course, synthesis.
Well, I kind of broke it down to the problem, the reaction, the solution. It happens and has been happening for thousands of years.
Right. But also part of Hegel's dialectic is this Slightlichkeit, the, basically economic or cultural ethical life. And
can you break this down? Because you got to remember, sometimes I'm talking to the third graders.
Right. But that there are certain rules that everybody has to live by, and if a culture does not live by those rules, that Hegel says that it is necessary for somebody who can do it for a good purpose and for good reason, whether agreed or not agreed, as long as it brings back things to ethical order, that it's okay, and that they would be right. And that when these concepts were used against Germany, Germany wasn't doing things to restore economic social order, but basically was, helping for, Herr Führer, where instead, what we're doing in Iraq, I think, is, establishing social order again.
You do?
Sure.
You got a TV?
Yeah, I got a TV.
You watch what happens over there?
I watch what happens over there, and I
well, they're now economically, you roll a tractor tire into a bakery, right?
Right.
And you say, here, I'll trade you this tractor tire for a loaf of bread, and the guy says, I don't own a tractor, screw you, go starve.
Yeah, it doesn't happen instantly. It's a whole process that's going to happen. And I mean, there are soldiers who talked about, what happened in Germany after World War II was pretty much the same thing that's going on in Iraq right now, but eventually stability takes over, and people get things straight. I mean, we've only been at it. The war's been over for, 2 months? A little over 2 months. I mean, it doesn't happen instantly, but we can see that there is a progression slowly working its way there. I mean,
I hope you're right. I truly hope you're right, and thanks for checking in, Tiger. The problem is, even Rumsfeld said we're going to be there a long, long time, and I do not believe that we had a clear-cut exit plan when we decided that we had a clear-cut entry plan. Well, we'll worry about that stuff later, right? Yeah, that's down the road. And every day, American troops are dying over there. People are going to get sick of it. I'm already sick of it. I knew it was going to happen before we even went in, and you heard it here. I told you over and over. No, well, you know what? Hey, maybe I was right. Maybe I'm not always right. Maybe I am always right. Maybe you'll say, someday, Rick, you know something? You're always right. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend. More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
Gilmour.
The space aliens have more or less landed. They kept our power on during Y2K.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. They're our friends.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
Oh, really? Yeah, doing live talk radio is like being a taxi driver and picking up someone, and occasionally they fart in the back of the cab, and you have to stop and let them out and put the windows down, and you never know who you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates, right? Interesting story. Police in New Jersey say they arrested 3 heavily armed teenagers who were planning to carry out random attacks on people they did not like. Police seized 2 rifles, a shotgun, 2 handguns, 2 swords, several knives, and ammunition from 2 juveniles and an adult after a carjacking attempt. The man who reported the carjacking attempt said he encountered the 3 in front of a school dressed in trench coats. Matthew Rich was able to drive away to summon police. After seeing the weapons, Rich said these guys were ready for a war. And right into the circular file on 2 points. Yeah, speaking of that, here it is, broad daylight. I'm driving to work, right? Driving by the projects. There's a bunch of people milling around. And I see the Cleveland Popo. They come driving up and pull up a side street and keep going. And 20 seconds later, I drive up. And these people don't have any idea who I am, right? And there's some guy sitting there in the car with his hand out the window, and a kid rides up on a bicycle and goes, ugh, and coughs a rock that was in his mouth, wrapped in plastic or foil or whatever, out into his hand, and then shakes hands with the guy, and the guy probably had the money in his hand, and when he shakes the hand, then he rides away on the bike. And I think we need to worry about things like that more than smoking in bars and restaurants and that sort of thing. And I complain about it, and the cops show up for a while, and CMHA does what they can with the money they have and the resources that they have, and then, it comes back again. Comes back again like a cancer, and rock crystal cocaine. I suppose Selling drugs is part of the American way, since apparently it's been going on for time immemorial. Rich, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
All right.
Hey, what's wrong with those kids? Jeez.
Well, I guess they just found people they didn't like.
Oh, man, those kids should be in Iraq right now. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, if they want to be heavily armed and run around and shoot at people that don't like them, they had to join the Army.
That's what I was thinking. Hey, I got a good story for you anyways. I'm driving home today from Youngstown. I'm listening to your program on the air about women and such. I got a girlfriend for 8 months at school. Today she tells me that she leaves me for her ex-boyfriend again.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes, and I've been in that loop too, where you're with the one for a while, and then they go back to the ex-boyfriend, and then there's a problem down the road, and then they know old Mr. Reliable will probably still be there, and then they play that game back and forth until you finally say enough.
Well, screw that. I'm not going to wait around, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Go get 'em, baby. Go get 'em.
There you go.
If I knew what I know now and only had the body of a 22-year-old, although I'm not doing too bad, but I went to the doctor and he said, "You've got the body of a 17-year-old." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, but you better give it back because you're ruining it."
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she tells me this right before we sit through a movie, too, which, by the way, was terrible. So it was the most awkward moment of my life.
Oh, my God. Why didn't she tell you that afterward? What was she not thinking?
She had a little too much to drink, I guess. I don't know. She was crazy.
You know, I would have said, "Sorry, you know, you're going to sit through that movie by yourself. See ya."
It was bad.
Yeah, you should have said, I got to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back, and just left her sitting there and walked out.
Yeah, I should have done that. I felt kind of bad, but you know what? I think back, I should have done that.
Well, it was just like me with the beer that my ex-wife bought me. I should have left it standing right there.